Howdy, everybody. Welcome on into the cargo bay where it's time for a little bit of television talk. How you doing, BC?
Television talk. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. How you
Oh,
doing,
you
man?
were doing prestige drama talk.
Prestige.
I'm good. I'm fine. Uh,
I'm fine.
we're gonna do a brief Ahsoka chat, BC, because I don't know. It seems like we used to talk about these shows every episode as they were coming out, so we might as well do
Boy,
a little
I,
season
boy,
not recap, but series wrap up, rather.
I tell you, back in the day, we were taking notes on every episode, broadcasting a podcast to nuns of listeners. Hopefully, y'all cargo babies don't mind a little bit of non-hobby talk.
Yeah.
Hey, at the end of the day, we're just two friends who like talking about Star Wars, so we're gonna indulge ourselves a little bit here and talk about Ahsoka.
Yeah, this is true. We try not to ever say anything negative when we're talking Star Wars trading cards about the properties at large because people have opinions about these shows. So we may have a light opinion. Be warned. You may disagree with us, and that's okay.
I may have an opinion so heavy it just breaks your brains.
I definitely will not. I'll start off by saying, BC, I think this show, I give it a 7 out of 10, somewhere in that area. I'm very kind of middle of the road on this series now that we're through it. Had highs and lows for me, and yeah, that's kind of where I am. I'm cool on it. How about you, BC?
I'd say I largely agree. I probably came in the most excited about this than any other recent Star Wars show. Just because I've been a big Ahsoka fan since I got into Clone Wars and Rebels, and obviously this is an extension of Rebels in almost every single way. As much as I tried to tamp down my expectations, of course I couldn't help myself. I don't think it blew me away, but there was a lot of stuff that I really liked about it. There's stuff that I'm just kind of like, meh. I'm not offended by any of it. It's not ruffling my feathers. It's not keeping me up at night. I am, of course, just generally looking forward to more. I mean, that seems to be kind of where we are with this Disney TV era that we're in of building these shows towards, something bigger and a movie and all that stuff. I mean, I think the stuff that they executed really well, I liked. I think some of the other stuff was fine. I got notes, but overall, I never had a bad time week to week, turning on my TV at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time and firing up a new Ahsoka episode.
Yeah, I always am excited to watch an episode of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I generally have things that I don't like and things that I do like about Star Wars, and I come away still liking the Star Wars. Really, in recent memory, the only thing where I was like, "Wow, that really blew my pants off," was Andor.
Yeah.
It was like, "Oh, this."
Yeah.
In my personal taste, that was something that just
Yeah.
hit a level of competency that I didn't really
Yes.
expect. Whereas, like there are things that I love about the show. The things that bother me most are things where it's like, I just don't see why you made that choice from a from like a cinematography standpoint, from a story. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just some things that in my brain I would change for the sake of clarity.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something I love. I think we both love new appearance by Ezra Bridger.
Oh man,
that guy's got it. That's my big takeaway from the show as far as stuff that I like. I was like, there's going to be some Star Wars with this guy, and he's going to do a great job. He's fun to watch.
he's amazing. And part of what makes me sad is that we didn't get him until later in so good in this role. And when he first appeared, it was like a breath of fresh air in the series. And what was at the end of episode 6, I think, is when we
Yeah.
6. Is
End of
that right?
6. Yeah.
Yeah. So end of 6 is when we got Ezra, and as soon as he appeared, I was like, oh, this guy's he is on it. He's when you say he's got it, he just has that. He's got that it factor when he's
Yeah.
on screen. It's very magnetic, and I think I'm just like, well, show me more Ezra Bridger stories. Let's follow this actor for a while, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I was on board for Rosario as Ahsoka and have been since Mando. I didn't really have problems with the cast in this show at any point.
No,
I think person who was cast as Hera had the hardest stuff to work with. Ian McGregor's wife, like
yeah.
her chunk of
Mary
this.
Elizabeth
Yes,
Winstead
there
is
you go.
the
Thank you. Mary Elizabeth Winstead had the hardest chunks of the script where it's like, sit here and talk, and stand here and talk.
and do some boring world building exposition that's going to tie into Mandalorian.
You mean you
The
want
New
us to fly
Republic.
back over the lake? Yeah, I do. Okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
I liked the cast in general. It was just
Yeah.
I was most surprised by Ezra, which I feel bad saying because this is a show with a women's power cast
Yeah,
and power
no.
character. I didn't know that guy from Adam and was like,
Yeah,
this guy's cool.
no, totally magnetic and charming. And I know a lot. My first controversial BC take coming in hot. I like Sabine.
Yeah,
I
I
know
do
a lot
too.
of people have a lot of problems with her character, or how the decision making. Whatever. Anytime she was on screen, I felt like there was an energy to the show that I really enjoyed. Like she just brought something different. There was a noticeable lack of Sabine in the World Between Worlds episode, and then when she came back the
Yeah.
next episode, I was like, oh yeah, there's Sabine. I just kind of missed her energy.
That's the character with the arc. The arc to be had is. I mean, I suppose Ahsoka has an arc in the show, but for me, that arc was very much like, I'm here and now I'm here. Like it was kind of like a light switch flipped on and off in that World Between Worlds, whereas like we actively are watching Sabine have the classic Star Wars journey, which is from whiny bad choices to more in tune Jedi type character.
Hey, y'all whiny fans out there, go back and look at Luke Skywalker's decision making.
Yeah.
I'll throw it out there. As much as I love Luke, it doesn't get everything right, you know?
Well, that's what I find endearing about these characters, is that I am whiny and make bad choices. So
often, I find
them relatable.
I wasn't talking about me. I was specifically talking about you. You are just bad decisions and whiny. Nonstop.
Who can I whine about? My number one whine for maybe not just this show, but just in Star Wars in general right now.
Yeah. Yep.
We had a full episode almost of Space Chase, where these bad guy fighters, this new type of fighter, is chasing Ahsoka around. They don't land a single hit on the ship, I don't think. And then we get a TIE fighter, 2 TIE fighters coming in the finale to lay down some fire. Man, these Imperial pilots are bad. They're so non-threatening. I don't want to see another space battle where the tactics are we fly right next to each other and we shoot a couple times and then we turn around and sink, and that's my biggest complaint with the show.
I knew the tactic of flying in formation into the Jedi shuttle would be a sticking point, because I watched that and I was like, that was stupid.
Yeah.
This evasive maneuvers.
Maybe
I guess Thrawn
put on the brakes
them on evasive maneuvers. You know,
when you have a target and you're shooting at it and you're for whatever reason missing repeatedly, even though it's not moving, a good tactic is to be behind it and put on the brakes. Anyway, I have a lot of these complaints that don't really matter. I just want the stakes of the enemies weren't there for me. The same with the zombie stormtroopers, where it was like, it felt a little Book of Boba Fett-y to me. Are we going to use battle tactics at all? Or are we going to...
Let's talk about zombies for a second. I like zombies as much as the next fella. Um, and I get that we're referencing very specifically Night Sister tactics. The encroaching, I guess, fear that I had watching that is that somehow all of this is about somehow Palpatine returns. You know what I mean? That a lot of this is to shoehorn a plot point from a movie that I think really sucks, and we're building part of this universe to justify the worst line that's ever been written in the history of Star Wars. Somehow, we don't know. Palpatine returns. TV shows about how it happened.
I
That was
didn't
my fear. I don't know
I
if it's
didn't get that
justified, but
feeling. I
it's just how I.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I'm not really into the directness of magic in the Star Wars universe anyway. That's a pill I've already
Sure.
swallowed with the Night
Right.
Sisters. Is like a lot of
Right.
people I know love the Night Sisters, and for me, I liked it when the Force was this kind of a light power set, a kind of elusive power set. I've come to terms with like now we have magic, and by magic we mean like witchcraft and
Resurrecting the
wizardry.
dead.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah.
all right, so that's fine. But hey, we got Thrawn. I'm glad they cast the guy they cast as Thrawn. I'm glad Thrawn comes out the victor in this series just because I like Thrawn.
Yeah.
Now we got a big bad out there in the galaxy again.
And what are your thoughts? Because just to jump back to the Night Sisters a little bit, we're fairly solidly from the denouement of the last episode, was setting up Dathomir
Oh yeah.
as a home base for some stuff. It
Yeah.
seems like we are about to go take a deep dive into some Dathomiri stuff, some Night Sister stuff.
I really like Dathomir in my video games. I
Mm-hmm.
I like it to stay there. You know, like I just
Okay.
don't have a lot of faith. And as much as this show is using the volume, like as much as we are in a volume Star Wars
Right.
world,
Right.
I don't know. It's not for me, but that's okay. I'll deal with it. You know, like when they materialized, I forget the name of the sword, but like I
Mother
was
Talzin's blade or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
like I hate this. I don't like it, but I also, you know, it didn't make me mad. I was just like, this is not for me. Okay, that's fine. Well, we're in the finale
Yeah.
and we're gonna here's another Star Wars weapon that has great significance.
It's an odd gap to sort of mentally bridge from it being such a specific cartoon animation feature to then seeing it in live action. Like a lot of this does play really well in the world of animation.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like the Clone Wars stuff, the Rebel stuff. When they get weird, the Mortis arc of Clone Wars, it's like some of my favorite Star Wars that exists. And I think they're just gonna do it or some version of that in whatever season 2 or the movie or whatever ends up happening next with Ahsoka and Sabine and Force Ghost Anakin and Baylan and all that sort of stuff. But it is a weird, like almost like cognitive dissonance for me of like this is cartoon,
yeah, yeah.
and now seeing it in live action, I'm like it's stranger in live action. I just want it. I want the weirdness to be very well executed. I thought the World Between Worlds stuff was cool. I liked seeing the Clone Wars. They use the volume as sort of like a foggy dream
That was a good
situation.
way to cover up the voluminous of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought their use of the volume in this was more successful than previous shows. I mean, we famously crapped all over the Kenobi series for the use of the volume as one of just the worst
It just looked
looking
really
things.
bad in that show.
Really,
Yeah.
really terrible. Yeah.
I
For all of you YouTube viewers, go check out our podcast.
I
Get to
may have
the
privated
archives.
this.
Oh
I'll
no!
have to private. I'll have to
Yeah.
private this because again we try to ingratiate all the Cargo Bay Star Wars card universe, and we may have been very negative on some aspects of Obi-Wan. I was gonna say, but there are mediums where I can suspend my disbelief better than others. I like
Mhm.
reading graphic novels about superheroes. I have a really hard time watching superhero movies a lot of the time because my brain just doesn't click over for that. It's the same where I'm saying I like Dathomir and the witches in my video games. I like them
Right.
in my comic books. I like them in animation,
Right.
but some of this stuff doesn't. It's harder for me to watch it in live action without
Yeah.
having some sort of like kind of cringe factor where I'm like,
Yeah.
these are adults in costumes versus like these are cartoon characters.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, and maybe it's just my weird. Star Wars is filled with weird nonsense from the beginning, but having because my first thought whenever the witches appeared was like Macbeth. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
immediately went to like Shakespeare. It's like, oh, the weird sisters are on this planet, and
yeah. They're the threads of
we're
fate right
yeah,
there.
yeah. It's very much. I mean, and I thought all of this stuff melded a lot of you know Lord of the Rings imagery was prominent
Yeah,
in this. Like there was no hiding any of that. And I dig that. I love Lord of the Rings. White Gandalf White,
yep.
seeing something that looks like the White City of Gondor almost in its construction. You know, you've got what are the what Baylan ends up at the end. It's
Oh
the
yeah, the Gateway of the Kings or whatever.
yeah I'm gonna just
I can't
smash my brain
remember.
for not. I'm so embarrassed I can't remember it.
It's fine.
Um, No,
I've read
I'm
those books
spiraling.
several times. It'll be okay.
Yeah, but like just direct visual references to Lord of the Rings and other stuff. I thought was cool. I just it was satisfying in a way, but it did leave me wanting more. And I'm at the end of this season, I'm like, well, I do want more, which I guess is what they're in the business of doing. Like, it's not about like, all right, you're satisfied. It's like, no, it's like fast food where it's like you eat a crap load of fast food and you're still hungry because there's no nourishment in it. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of
Yeah,
how this feels. How some
it
of
did
this
feel
Disney stuff kind of
stretched.
feels.
It
Yeah.
felt
Oh,
like butter over too
well.
much bread.
Hey, I love a good Lord of the Rings. I was gonna say for my beef time on this, it really was the pace. I think there was 4 really good episodes worth of stuff in 8 episodes. And if that had been editing and condensed into that, and then we were given more or something else with the additional 4 episodes, it would have felt more satisfying. It just felt like we spent a lot of time in places that
I
we didn't need to necessarily.
I mean, I think the pace could have been fine if those conversations would have been meaningful versus like just long shots of things and like looks and like I could have done with more conversation between Ahsoka and Sabine. Like I'm not saying I need it to be faster just for the sake of getting to the
Right.
action.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
wondering what are we
It's
doing here sometimes.
it's more interesting to me when they are having honest conversations about the Force and growth and failure and how you.
Baylan's speech in the next to last episode
And
or whatever, that was the most intriguing stuff to me of like whenever you're critiquing the Jedi in a way that's not just like, the Jedi. When it's like,
yeah,
hey, those guys really had it messed up, like
yeah.
um that's
I'm
always interesting to
I'm
me.
I'm so sad about the passing
Yeah.
of 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 Ray. It's I thought his performance probably was one of the best things about the series. I wanted more of him in
I
the last
wanted a show
episode.
of both of them together. Him and his apprentice together
Yeah.
were very fun to watch.
That I mean, that is a show in and of itself. It's like have the balls to do that. That show is wildly fascinating for you to explore those ideas. But I mean, I get, and they work as good, sort of opposition opponents or bad guys, as it were, in this. But I just think that I wanted more, and I mean, I think they're gonna have to recast. It seems like that's the road they're gonna go down. I don't know,
Yeah.
but uh, I will treasure his performance in this season. I thought he was fantastic, and hopefully whatever they end up doing, it's one of those like creative decisions where it's just like lose lose because it's based around human tragedy.
Yeah.
It's like it's a no win situation, but hopefully it all works out and is not you know inelegant or rude in how it's
Yeah,
handled.
I don't want to see
I
a
don't think.
CG
No,
plaster of his face on anything,
I
please.
really don't. I really don't want that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I came away from this too being like, I want to see more of these characters. I'm a little less confident in Filoni than I was going in. There were just some choices that were really weird to me. I wasn't considering this is the point he's been building his career toward for all of these years. I was expecting to be blown away with some element of the
Yeah.
story, and that at least without knowing what Baylan is up to, there's nothing really that surprised me. Like we found we found Ezra, and we're coming back with just Ezra. Like I don't know. I guess it's interesting that Ahsoka and Sabine have failed and are where they are. But I told you I wanted season 2 to be called Ezra, and it should have started with him on the Star Destroyer. Still, why do you skip that part? That's the fun part. I guess because in the volume you just need wide open spaces. You don't want to do
Well,
corridors.
and they just completely, essentially, skipped him exiting the Chimera. Period.
Yep.
Like there was
It's a
no
weird choice. A comic
like
book, I guess, in the
and
future.
the dumb like nitpicky part of my brain is like they could track human bodies from a distance.
Yeah.
They can't track a shuttle leaving the Chimera. Like I don't know. It
Or
just
just
was like
like Thrawn didn't have all of the stormtroopers possible in the bay watching for where the
right,
battle was. Like
right,
that was
yeah.
all kind of weird. And I told you, I was expecting Ezra throws his lightsaber together really quickly. That's the perfect opportunity for it to have trouble. Like I was fully expecting it to be like, oh no, my lightsaber is failing here and there, which turns a super boringly staged action sequence of we're all just standing here at a rave into like, oh, now we do some like Jackie Chan action movie styling, like, oh, my lightsaber's out. Now that's why we got to work together because it keeps coming on and going off. And the comedy of like, oh, it's back on
Yeah.
again, it's off again. I was just desperate for some interesting action staging. It just felt very like Star Wars has been most of the time, no impact, and things are only threatening when we need them to be. Like when they kill all the stormtroopers, and then they're just kind of standing around after the stormtroopers are dead.
We did it.
We did it. We're gonna wait for them behind us rather than continuing to run after Thrawn. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand this is all nitpicky. I don't want my Star Wars to look like Power Rangers. The Ahsoka versus Morgan fight was great. Felt like they sped ramp that a little bit or something. It looked cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That was probably the choreography highlight for me, at least in the last episode. Yeah. I think I'm generally just none of this. I'm going to say any complaints I have. None of this affects me really in any meaningful way. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
of course.
I'm not. I'm not getting bent out of shape about it. I'm generally grateful for any Star Wars that I get. Just as a big old dumb nerd, I'm like, cool. I mean, Book of Boba Fett sucked, but it's like that's fun to watch, And
I completely agree. That's just the thing that is surprising to me still, and it's really been since the Robert Rodriguez reintroduction of Boba Fett, where it's like, why are you running along the ridge and getting shot at instead of? I have to have a certain believability for combat to have for me to be excited watching combat.
Well,
and it's rarely happening in Star Wars now.
I don't think I've felt stakes in a fight, except the one fight that I think dramatically worked for me was the first Sabine and Shin
Oh
fight,
yeah.
where Sabine clearly doesn't know what she's doing with a lightsaber,
Love
and
seeing someone not knowing how to use a lightsaber. Yeah.
it's a fight that has like a fear factor in it because it's like, you know, fighting for your life. I thought that was really well executed. There's a storytelling to the choreography that I thought was in that fight that wasn't consistent throughout them. I mean, a lot of it's just like, hey, we just need to get the coverage so we can, you know, move forward. It's like, you can build. I mean, that Ezra lightsaber idea is great. Like, that's stuff that makes fight choreography really not just like pew pew pew, block block block, parry parry parry, attack attack attack. Like, there's a through line even through the violence. You know what I mean? So that's something that I thought was inconsistent. But the moments when it's there, you're like, oh, this is singing, this is humming, this is what makes Star Wars good. Is when there's that storytelling on top of choreography. Choreography for choreography's sake is just really boring.
Well, that's yeah. I'm not one of those people who's like the throne room fight in the Last Jedi is bad because it's technically that's not how you fight. That's not what I mean. You know, I'm not saying like it has to be believable so much as like when Han runs into the stormtroopers and turns around screaming. That's silly, but like it does. There are stakes there. Like I want to see characters in fear more. I guess is what it is too. Like. Which you don't get from Stoic Jedi, whatever. I guess I can't have it both ways, but
I do like that
consistent.
Ezra brings. I do like that Ezra brings the not stoic Jedi energy to it.
Yeah, he's excitable, but his emotions are like he's not acting out of rage ever, but he's allowed to be like, yeah. And I liked his lightsaber fighting was cool. There were good fights in this show. There was.
Yeah, I mean, a hot take from the cargo bay. We like the no lightsaber Ezra.
Oh yeah,
I love when the Force can be used in interesting ways.
I was like, that's what Yoda should have done in the. The first time I cognitively as a child was like, this is bad. Why does Yoda need a lightsaber? He's Yoda.
Why is Yoda doing 1080 flips and for one saber strike? Yeah, I mean, I think the general's consensus of why they made it was like, isn't this going to be cool with the technology? It's like, I mean, now, in the excitement of the time, maybe. But let's think about how this technology is going to age, because it looks like dog crap now. Like, that fight doesn't look like anything except for CGI just being algorithmed across the screen, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know, the storytelling in fight choreography is I'm a big stickler for, I'll say.
It was there with Anakin and Ahsoka. Anakin still knows how to swing that lightsaber. We are both fans of the Hayden Reclamation Project. Always a delight to see him having a good time. I loved it.
Hey, let me bring this into a little bit of hobby realm. I think the Hayden Christensen auto with the Clone Wars costume.
Yeah.
I think when those come out, we're talking buku bucks, folks.
Yeah,
that's going to be a hot card.
I would agree. I want one of those.
I do, yeah.
And
I want a Hayden auto, like, period.
In general,
they're relative. I mean, they're expensive, but compared to other major characters in Star Wars, are relatively affordable. I do think a specific in the Clone War costume would just like is going to light it up.
If I someday have one of those or one with the cracked Obi-Wan
that's such
Vader,
a great,
that would be cool too. Yeah, I love that we got to see, even though it was just a tiny bit, we got to see some live action Clone Wars. That was finally satisfied. That's good enough for me. Like I don't think we have to have a whole show of it, but I've wanted
like
to see
1,000 episodes.
Yeah, we have the Clone Wars, and now you've got the bridge to it. They're the same character now. They're connected. Yeah. Hayden got to play it. Matt Lanter still gets to be, Anakin. It's all good.
I don't know. Let the Clone Wars be. I thought the bridge here was good. I do really love the Hayden Christensen Reclamation Project.
Yeah.
Even. And I will say I do like the live action, because the cartoon is what reclaims Anakin Skywalker
Yeah,
as
yeah.
a character, because he's, again, no shade to Hayden Christensen. It is poorly written
And poorly
in the
directed.
and poorly directed in those prequel movies, right? Like it's you go back and you watch those and you're like, woof. If you watch Clone Wars, you're like, oh, Anakin Skywalker
Was a
rips,
hero, yeah.
was an amazing war hero. And it's like reckoning with that and seeing that start to come into live action too, I think is good, because not everyone has that same positive energy towards Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker being a Jedi with any sense of like light side. It was always like, oh, conflicted, whiny teen who is gonna eventually become Darth Vader. It's like, no, there's a period of time where Anakin Skywalker slays and
Oh
is like
man.
the most powerful dude in the galaxy, you know?
The intro to the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, it's just like this kind of like old school space opera, like send up of the heroes of that the Jedi
Mhm.
are in the Clone Wars, and it's just a fantastic tonal piece of like, yeah, this is what we wanted to believe the fall came from. And it's
Right.
awesome that Hayden Christensen is excited to do this as, a 40-year-old guy playing
I'm just
like the same character. And when I say by he's having a good time, sometimes people mean like he's not doing a good job, he's just having fun. No, I think he's doing a great job, and
doing great.
it delights me to hear Hayden Christensen talk about Asajj Ventress. Like that's the kind of Easter
So
egg I
great.
like.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's I the Hayden Christensen reclamation, 10 out of 10
Yeah.
fan of on this end. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, always fun, even if that episode was. I mean, I didn't have any problems with that episode. I was waiting for episode 6 until we got to episode 6. I was like, where are we going? Are we gonna do anything but MacGuffin hunt? Are we gonna
I
do
mean,
some more MacGuffin
yeah,
hunting?
episode 6 really was where it was like, all right, let's like, I think we spoke about it. We're like, we could have gotten here just a lot faster. We
Yeah,
could have been in the world of Ezra Bridger. We could have been, hey, shout out to the Noti, love them.
yep, yeah,
We could have been in just this weird wilderness landscape as we get ready for the big bad, the confrontation. I just feel like there was a lot of missed opportunity in the first half of the season that was like, the second half really, really did start to hum for me.
yeah, yeah. And the finale was fine. For me, I was frustrated by dumb action things, but I'm okay where it left off. It was a little like, that image people post of Filoni like in the sky as God. Like sometimes I want to make that, but he's just shining on a cornfield. It's like a little corny. We're dwelling here a long time, staring at the horizon. Like I got it. This is only like this. It feels like there's just been so many times in the Star Wars saga where it's let's reflect on how important this Star Wars saga is. And I just want some story. I got it. It's important.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Star Wars: A New Hope. It didn't take itself seriously
Yeah.
even a little bit. Like there was no sense of self-importance because it wasn't important. It was held together by like duct tape and a prayer. Like
Yeah.
that movie
and
barely
and Marsha
exists.
Lucas.
Yeah, and a legitimately talented editor who came in and saved a movie. Um, yeah, like that movie, just our cultural relationship to it now is just so skewed because it has become so important. It's its own religion almost for people, and it's like, okay, I like it too, but it's like I don't need to be ruled by Star Wars. I don't need my to be changed by Star Wars. I just need space opera.
Yeah.
I just need fantasy. I just need fun. I need excitement. I need compelling stories. The self seriousness of this and honestly a lot of recent Star Wars is like you tonally you're going the wrong way. Like, and as
That's
much as
like
I love Empire,
Mando.
which is
Oh yeah.
yeah, the man Mando season 1,
Yeah.
perfect example. Like
Mando
Adventure of
is
the Week.
drifting away from what so many people were craving, which is like, this is fun and it can be stupid sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah, and then it was like, you know what? We're gonna hang every fortune in the company on the fact that him and that little green baby are gonna be so important. It's like, just let him go on dumb Law and Order adventures of the week. You know what I mean? Like, and it does seem like the end of season 3 of Mando, which again we kind of panned. I think season 3 in a lot of ways, but
Yeah, I was okay. I mean, I honestly
I guess
like
I panned it. I don't want to speak for you.
yeah,
But
I mean,
panned it.
I think I found more to. I would rather rewatch that season than rewatch this because that had a lot of wacky, dumb stuff throughout, and this had a lot of slow, self-important stuff throughout. Like, it's like, oh, I'll go watch that episode where he fights the Phil Tippett beast in the cave again, but
But remember, because that beast fell him and Bo-Katan fell the beast, then now ergo ipso facto owner
that's right.
of the Darksaber.
I forgot. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is all Star Wars is bad.
Yeah, a lot of it is. Yeah, most of it, except as the cargo bay will always endorse Andor, which is.
Yeah, sorry, y'all. I'm learning that a lot of people hate that take that Andor is significantly better than.
Sorry, you're wrong. We're right. I can't help you. I'm just right about that.
The depth of character development in that show from one scene versus like an episode of other shows, it's like, oh, I just learned so much in that dialogue sequence between two office workers.
I'm gonna say this because maybe I'm doubling back on myself, and I don't want to get blown up in the comments for it. I know I did just say that I don't need my Star Wars to be so self-serious.
Oh yeah.
Usually that's true, unless it's written by a genius. I think is the caveat. You know what? Like,
yeah,
Andor is written by someone who is writing at such a level that if they're taking it seriously, it means something. As opposed to if Dave Filoni or Jon Favreau are, I'm going to do serious Star Wars. It's not the same as the guy who wrote Michael Clayton Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, it's completely different. It's a completely different thing.
That's where I guess where I start to get frustrated with Star Wars being self-important is if I feel like I could do it and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything. I'm a failure in life. I get it.
Right. Yeah,
but
no, totally.
But when I watch Andor, it's pulling off.
Me on a regular.
When I watched Andor, it pulled off something that I didn't think was possible.
Yeah.
Where it was like,
yes,
you really tried that and it worked somehow. You made you made this really dramatic, high stakes thing, and it's paying off. The world in which that Luthen monologue is written and successful is just something I would never dare attempt. I would try to write an episode of Mando, sure, season 1 Mando. Let's go have an adventure, but. The reason why I'm impressed by Andor is I can't imagine pulling it off myself in any universe.
It's like tap dancing on a razor wire across the Grand Canyon is what that feat is to me. I'm just like, there's no way anyone didn't. Okay, well, you did. My hat's off to this forever.
And that's why I'm scared of season 2, because every episode of Andor, we were like, maybe next week it sucks. We got to be ready for maybe next week.
We were very guarded from week to week. We're like, I don't know. It's probably got to fall off eventually, right? I mean, it's probably got to get, I don't know, maybe like 10% worse. Wait, tell me more about Narkina 5? The floors are, oh my God, the concepts, everything about it. We were total suckers for it, but
yeah.
And I get the take that like it's because it doesn't have the Force and lightsabers that it's almost like a backdoor cheat on being Star Wars. Which is fine.
Baby,
like,
I grew up in the 90s. The things that are Star Wars to me are much broader apparently than what a lot of people view Star Wars as. I grew up with a rich media landscape full of all kinds of weird different flavors of Star Wars, and that's what I want Star Wars to be, which is why we like Visions so much too. It's like, I didn't really like that one, but that was weird, man. I never thought about doing that before. Cool.
we really should extol the virtues of vision.
Yeah.
I do think it's one of the most underrated things, just because no one really rates it. It's such a small niche thing, but like for what it is, I think even going back to the first time you said come on Twitch and talk to me about Star Wars, like let's just talk Star Wars. I guess what's my favorite thing was it's this sandbox for creativity for humanity now, you know, and it's at its best when creative people can go in and tell stories that are as vast and different as the people who are telling them. Are there going to be ones I don't like? Yeah. Are there going to be ones that I just am kind of indifferent to? Yes. But like some of the vision stuff is approaching Star Wars from perspectives that I never would have thought about, and legitimately blows my mind to see that stuff. And I'm like, that's such a brilliant way to look at what this galaxy is. It's this sandbox, and you've got cultural stories from across the world that allow us to see Star Wars in a different way. It's like we get so mainlined with like, this is what mainstream Star Wars is. And Andor kind of felt like, yeah, but it could also be this. Vision's like, yeah, but it could also be like a million other things, you know?
I feel like a lot of the current Star Wars is, here are the action figures that we're going to play with. Versus we're broke and we have sticks and we like Star Wars. What can we imagine and come up with? Because we don't have the Luke Skywalker action figure that we now have to drop in, or the Grogu that has to... Like, it's Lego sets versus blocks.
You just warmed the cockles of my cold heart, because like it pulled me back to childhood, because I wasn't rich growing up. I wasn't poor or anything, but it wasn't like I always got all the toys that I wanted. I grew up, my mom's an art teacher. She's an art instructor. So if there were toys that I didn't have, we'd make things, right? Yeah. Like we would sit down with cardboard and markers, and like, it's like, I may not have the toy, I may not be able to afford the cool thing, but it's like, I can use my imagination. I can use what creativity and skill that I have as a 7, 8, 9-year-old, whatever it was, to like make things that I can still play with. Is it as cool as the toy?
Yes.
No, but I promise you, I'm going to remember that more. That's long since in the garbage, you know.
I mean, we love collectibles. We have a show about collectibles, and I understand the significance. I understand the significance of them. But if I could have the blaster that I painted, the Nerf blaster I painted to look like a Star Wars gun back, versus the mass-produced E11 that was my favorite. You know, like if I had those things I made as a child back, those are cooler. Like, because they required effort and imagination, which. I don't know. There's, and I appreciate anyone who's listened this far, because whenever someone talks about Star Wars, all I do is sit there and go, "You don't understand," and I know exactly how to explain that. And
this is what Star Wars is supposed to be.
So, sorry.
If you're still with us, like and subscribe.
Yeah.
If you haven't already,
or dislike it, we'll maybe not.
Let the hate flow through you. I don't know. We could just, if you don't want us to do it, we'll do it on our own time too, because I just like talking to my buddy about Star Wars.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, had fun with Ahsoka. Glad it exists. I'm always glad that it exists, because nothing ruins Star Wars for me, which is something that broke my heart when the prequels were universally hated for a while, and my friends were like, I don't like Star Wars anymore. I was like, why don't you just not like the prequels anymore? You could like separate that.
There's still cool Star Wars.
You don't have to change your headcanon.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's all I got to say, BC. You got anything else?
Just to generally, I like Star Wars. I want more Star Wars. Was it perfect? No. Did I hate it? Of course not. Were there things that I absolutely loved? Yes. Were there things that I pushed back against? Sure. Nobody really cares, but my advice is, don't let it get you too bent out of shape. It's just a Star War, you know?
It's just a Star War. It's just another Star War, and there'll be more until Disney stops making money off of idiots like us, baby.
Yeah, if they had a half a brain in their head, they would have some tops now.
Yeah, where's the tops now? Ahsoka. I definitely want cards from this show. Yeah. Give them to me. I want my live action Thrawn. I want I want all the Ghost crew in live action. I want my I want a card that is a relic that you twist a knob on the side and David Tennant's eyes flick up and down.
Oh, shout out David Tennant. I loved him as a voice in this. And in the spirit of what we talked about, I am going to be drawing a Star Wars card for someone that doesn't exist yet. So if you feel so inclined, just go make your own Star Wars card.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that, BC. I just remembered the name of the last episode was The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlock. What was it? It upset me.
The Jedi, the Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
Okay.
Yep, that's what it was. And a quick shout out to Google. The Lord of the Rings statues are the Argonath.
Hey, I would
Argonath.
never have remembered that. But we will be covering the two towers.
December, baby.
Yeah, we do a Lord of the Rings every year. It'll be our second time, so that'll be exciting.
I'm jazzed about that. I'm jazzed. We're approaching fall weather, which means mentally I'm approaching Lord of the Rings season. This is off topic now. I've got the audiobooks as read by Andy Serkis.
Oh, nice.
That I'm going through, which
How's
is
that?
highly enjoyable. Well, it's
Nice.
fantastic. Yeah,
I've listened to
just
the other
fantastic.
guy read them about 1,000,000 times. Does Andy sing the songs?
I don't know if I've gotten to singing yet.
Okay.
I'm still firmly in the Shire.
Because I love the old guy doing, and now I'm going to sing a song. And this is now the next line.
You know, I think he has sung. I think he has done something to. I think he does sing.
Okay, we'll get ready for a lot of it. Anyway, shout out to all y'all out there still watching. Thanks for being here. And I'm ready, BC. I got my finger on the trigger. Beautiful.